Alright, welcome back to the Agamemnon game review. Today's video is being recorded on the 5th of September 2018. It's 11:56 a.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. This video was recorded, or source was captured on the 26th of August 2018. That was a Sunday. Which means it's part of our, I'm not really sure how we're gonna title it. I keep wanting to say retro or past, but it's really, an alt character now. And, it's, just something that doesn't deal with the, main storyline. But on Sundays are our official day that we deal with things not totally related to the BFA. And chance to work on alts and one day I'll come up with an appropriate title for it. So here we're back in Pandaria with our alt Z Lydia Marie. She's a Warlock. So she's really my main character, but I had to create Lurch Manos to do the BFA stuff since she was not at that point in the story. And as an avid role player, I don't want to break continuity by jumping all the way ahead in the story. So she has to go through the Mist of Pandaria expansion, along with the Warlords of Draenor, and eventually Legion. So she hasn't really experienced that, and I myself have not experienced that yet in the game. So I still want to experience it as it's supposed to be experienced. So here we go, we're starting out the day. When walking through the village here, you gotta be careful because there's always Alliance people poking around here, and they like to gank people. And they always do it when you're just talking to the guy. They walk up and just start sneak attacking you. See, like this guy? There we go. Spam stunning. That time the guard killed him.
Next one.
See, Alliance players, they never do. They're the ones always about honor, but yet they're the ones always sneak attacking people. Their honor is hollow, which is why they're gonna be wiped off the face of Azeroth. It would be kind of cool if at some expansion they let the Horde take over the world. Not that I don't think it would change the story all that much. I mean, Star Wars, the Empire took over the galaxy. So, the Eternal Empire took over the galaxy, so it's not like it can't be done. And they did it in Warcraft too, so. this character doesn't have any fancy Azerite gear, so she has to old school it with just normal everyday gear.
What do you want from me?
I might start setting up Saturday night to play my Alliance Warlock, because that character is falling behind. I don't think I've logged into that character in a long time. That is my actual main character, or at least the first character I've had in the game, and that character is the oldest character I have. So she was all the way at the beginning of the game when the game launched. I didn't actually play the game when it launched in November of 2004. I came in 2005. And that mainly had to do with my fallout with the Star Wars Galaxies and Sony Online Entertainment. So 2005 began kind of the downfall for Star Wars Galaxies and Sony Online Entertainment. It actually begins in 2004, but progressively gets worse. And then in 2005, I was really looking for a different game, a new game. And then World of Warcraft and City of Heroes came along, and I started looking at them with a lot of serious attention. Well, back then I was pretty loyal to my brand, EverQuest and Star Wars, and so I was like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna try those out. But then Sony Online Entertainment started being kind of hokey and almost juvenile in the way that they were dealing with customers, and so I started not liking that, and I decided to look at other products out there. And then I really liked City of Heroes, and World of Warcraft was a game that a lot of people wanted me to play. And then my one friend, Roger, he had been playing it, and then he said he liked it, and so I started playing it, and that's sort of how I ended up where I was in the game. And I went through all the different classes, and I really liked Warlock. It seemed kind of interesting. And then I kind of felt that demonology was the way to go, because it seemed like the harder one to grind out, and it seemed the more difficult to play, and one that required a lot of tactical understanding to play. So that's kind of what drew me to play it, and I guess I should qualify what that means. Me, I like playing games that have a lot of tactical ability, or you have to think tactically. Just other than hit this button and wait till the thing dies type tactic. And I felt that my first exposure to World of Warcraft was that it was a simple game, but at the same time it had a lot of tactical qualities to it that I liked. And I had played Warcraft and Starcraft. I was more into Warcraft than Starcraft, and Warcraft, all three versions of it, being Warcraft, Warcraft 2, and Warcraft 3, had a lot of. They were strategic games, but they had a lot of tactical qualities to it that I liked. And but they were simple games, and they were funny, because there was like a story that went along with it, which the stories kind of showed you how to play the game, and then you went off to your own little battles with your friends and stuff, and that was kind of cool. And then so when World of Warcraft came out, at that time I had played EverQuest for a long time, and I had played EverQuest Online Adventures, which was the PS2 version of EverQuest, which I felt that EverQuest Online Adventures was better than EverQuest. And I think when they came out with EverQuest 2, they tried to create that version of the game. And it was a little simpler, but it was fast-paced and moved quickly, and it didn't break down a lot. Not like EverQuest. EverQuest had a lot of detail to it, and it would just break down a lot. And so you spent a lot of time just sitting around waiting for maintenance to get done. And back in the late 90s and early 2000s, when developers would fix games, it wasn't like nowadays where they would like, oh, we got a problem, and then the following Tuesday they would have a patch ready to go. It would be, you could go 4 weeks and they still, before you even see a patch. So that happened in Star Wars. The game had broke in a way where we were on, it was the moon of Tatooine. I think the planet was called Locke, and we were stuck there for an entire month. No one could leave. So people were having parties and stuff every night, and which was okay, because back then that was before they had updated Star Wars Galaxy, so it was still under the original format. So that game, you could pretty much go off and do anything you wanted in the game, and so it was a lot of fun. What precipitated a lot of changes in Star Wars Galaxies and eventually EverQuest was because World of Warcraft came out. And so they were trying to simplify the game in a way that World of Warcraft operated. And a lot of people hated that. Myself, I don't understand why people hated that. But I felt with Star Wars Galaxies, had they came out and said, hey, we want to redevelop the game to simplify it, and this is the format that we think will work, and it's going to take us like 2.5 years to restructure the game to that, I think people would have been fine with that. But they came out with some cover story, and they pretty much lied to people and strung them along, people who were like subscribers. And then they said, nah, we're not going to do that. And then they did. And I think that's what angered a lot of people who were subscribers. And it started like in February of 2005, and they were holding on to people through the summer. And then in November of 2005, that's when their new game enhancements came out. And but the problem with that is Star Wars Attack of the, not Attack of the Clones, but the third movie had came out, Revenge of the Sith, through the summer, and the expansion that was coming out was called Trials of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they created an environment called Mustafar, which was taken from the movie, I guess, and so a lot of your stories took place on that planet. And so if you, my character in the game was a bioengineer, Wookiee bioengineer, and my other friend was a creature handler. And bioengineer was a very difficult class to play because you had to go out and collect all DNA samples, and then which required you to go to all these different environments, and then you spent most of your time hunting. And when you collected DNA samples, you had to do it in a way where you didn't kill the animal. But then you had to collect enough DNA samples to create a genetic blueprint of the species that you wanted to clone, basically. And then to become a master bioengineer, which my character was, you had to craft millions of those items in each of the 4 tiers. So you had to eventually 4 or 5 million items you had to craft. Just going from the tier between, I'm going to say the last tier before you hit master, just to make that jump. That doesn't include the 3 previous tiers to that. And so you had to build a lot of things. And well, overnight that stuff went away. And they were going through the summer saying that they were going to correct it. Don't worry, everything's going to be fine. What they did is they totally got rid of those classes. That's what they did. And that angered a lot of people. I personally wasn't really angry. I was just upset that I spent all that time grinding out that character and just overnight it went away. And then they replaced it with something that was awful. And so that kind of inspired me to want to try out World of Warcraft in City of Heroes. But I'm kind of glad. My first exposure to World of Warcraft was definitely before Burning Crusades came out. And I spent a while, I had downloaded the free version of it, because you could do the trial period, which in those days you could play like the first 20 or 30 levels free, before you had to make a commitment, which I did. And then when I started playing, which was in 2005, at that point they were talking about the expansion coming out, which was Burning Crusades. And then it took some time, because I remember I had played for a while when Burning Crusades came out, and then I bought the expansion. And I went through all that and explored all through the Burning Crusades as an Alliance character. And then and I remember when Wrath of the Lich King came out, or the campaign prior to it coming out. And when I say campaign, I mean more like with each expansion, there's a moment in time where Blizzard starts hyping the sale, or pitching the sale. Hey, this new great thing, you should look into it. And I want to say it was almost a year before they usually start like a year out. They start, hey, this new thing's coming out, kind of thing, campaign. They all been good. But my first character, who I still have, she's fallen behind. She's now only like level 87 now in the game. Which at one time, she was my highest level character, because she was top tier back when Wrath of the Lich King came out. And then I had bought the expansion for Cataclysm. Cataclysm was the last expansion that I bought in the box, because at that point, going back to even Classic, World of Warcraft, Burning Crusades, and Wrath of the Lich King, I bought all in the boxes. And Cataclysm I had bought in the box. And then I ended up not playing Cataclysm, mainly because I was going to college at the time. Or I started going to college, and I didn't have a lot of time to play. And that's sort of how I ended up away from the game. But that's when Star Trek Online started coming out, and as a big Star Trek fan, I kind of wanted to really play that game. And so with that game, I had bought a lifetime subscription when it came out, so I didn't have to pay a monthly subscription to it every month. I had just bought the initial lifetime subscription and I was done with it. So that's pretty much why I ended up playing Star Trek Online for about 6 or 7 years before I came back to World of Warcraft. But after I graduated from college, there was a time I was trying to get back in the workforce. The economy sucked, so it took a while to get back into the workforce, but eventually I did. And once I started getting a steady paycheck, then I renewed my World of Warcraft account. But when I came back in December of 2016, partly two reasons I came back was the computer that I had. My main computer that I had in 2013 that I had going through college was a lot better computer than I have now, and the one I had just right before this one. As far as processor, is a lot more powerful. And even though it was an older computer, it was just a lot better. And then that eventually died. the processor ceased to function. So I ended up using a backup computer, which was an old Dell, which World of Warcraft ran great on that. And so when I bought my laptop, I was able to port back into that really quickly. And then the laptop I bought was a i3, Core i3, and at the time only had 4 gigs of memory. So I felt that World of Warcraft was one of the better games that ran on it. And one of the things I've always liked with World of Warcraft is that it runs on it pretty much any system. So since then I've upgraded the memory to 16 gigs. The game runs a lot better, even though I don't play in high-end graphics, but that's not a big deal for me. It looks decent enough. I can get over it. As long as I can play the game, that's all that matters. But the point of the story is that I'm thinking that on Saturday night I want to save that for Alliance night, and then play my main Warlock on the Alliance side, so I can at least get her moving forward in the direction of the Battle for Azeroth stuff. Now that character was in Northrend, and because at the time I was playing her, before Cataclysm came out, I was still going through the Northrend campaigns. And so when I came back in December 2016, it took me most of 2017 to figure out where the character was, what she was doing, where the story was. I had to figure out like what was going on with the Eastern Kingdom, Kalimdor, Northrend, and then I eventually figured out that the Cataclysm only affected the main areas of Azeroth, but the expansion for Burning Crusades and the expansion for Wrath of the Lich King weren't affected by the Cataclysm. They were still stuck in that time period. It was only the other areas that were affected by the Cataclysm. And Cataclysm, because I went through it with this character, at least on the Horde side, was only really 4 different areas of the world. And then it was a lot of fun. And then so I'm thinking on Saturday night that would be a good night to play the Alliance people. Kind of like with this character, I think it's fun to when I play Lurchmanos. He's kind of caught up to where the lore is currently. And then this character is only, really, 2 expansions behind? 3 expansions behind. And then the other character, Clytemnestra, she would be, She would only be 4 expansions behind. But that would give us a character on the Alliance side, so we can capture the detailed, comprehensive story. And one of the things I like about the videos that we're producing, that I think separates us from a lot of other people, is that we're getting a very good, comprehensive view of the game, rather than just short snippets. Because I like when you're, even though you get up to a cutscene, I like it that you show the events that happen prior to it, so it gives it some context of how your character fits in the world. And I think it gives good balance gameplay, because I would say for 90% of your time a week, you're pretty much soloing everything, which you're doing quest. And for like 20 to 10% of your time, you're really doing it with other people, which those are fun, but they're really just short periods of time, even though it's a lot done with more people, a larger scale of people. So I feel it gives us a better round out gameplay. Here we were collecting all these little spider silk,
take your time.
earth
Enjoy.
silk worm stuff. And, these were a pretty interesting set of quests we had to do.
There is no hurry.
Now this character is in a guild, and I don't really know much about them. I joined them because I like the name, Rest in Peace. But when I found this guild, I was looking for a guild that was an all-forsaken guild, and I couldn't find one. So I went with the next best thing, and their kind of title went with it. And, they claim they want to do raids, but
Tell me of your travels.
this character isn't anywhere at the level that they would be able to do a raid in the current content. And so now with the Lurch Manos, I haven't really joined a guild because he's on a different server to begin with. This character's on the Dalaran server, and Lurch Manos is on Moonguard, so it'd be very difficult to join the same guild.
May the red crane live forever in your heart.
Of course, I've never joined a guild where they think Sylvanas Windrunner is a dictator. I like the Dark Lady. I'm with her all the way. She's no Gorosh Hellscream. Hellscream was an idiot. She at least has purpose. My favorite line is where she told Sourfang where he could take his honor. Well, she didn't use those words, but that's what she meant. Like, screw your honor. We're not losing the battle because you have honor. That's messed up. So, we gotta lose an entire war because this guy's got honor. Screw that. I think for a lot of people that play the game, and a lot of the characters in the lore, they seem to think that honor means you do whatever is ever necessary to keep the living alive. When you really break down their statements, it's what it comes down to. Whatever you have to do to keep